would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem. I immediately deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to secure the building and expel the intruders.
Yeah, except that was untrue even the day after. That was untrue. And yesterday, we learned, is a hard word for Donald Trump to say. But that was January 7th, and he was goaded into, pressured into making this video denouncing the violence, denouncing the dead, denouncing the mayhem, the glass breaking, the hunting of his vice president and the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. He couldn't say yesterday, though. But he also lied right there. He said that he had called the National Guard. Okay. Then Mark Meadows was on the TV saying that I guess he was talking to Maria Bartiromo and telling her, oh, you know, we had 10,000 National Guard people that were at the ready. All they needed was Nancy to call. Why Nancy? I mean, it would be the president's call. OK, but here he is lying.
So you say that the president had offered up Capitol Police, National Guard, even went to the Department of Defense.
Yeah, and so we also know that in January, but also throughout the summer, that the president was very vocal in making sure that we had plenty of National Guard, plenty of additional support, because he supports the rule of law, he supports our law enforcement, and offered additional help. Even in January, that was given. As many as 10,000 National Guard troops were told to be on the ready by the Secretary of Defense. That was a direct order from President Trump, and yet here's what we see is there's all kinds of blame going around, but yet not a whole lot of accountability. That accountability needs to rest with where it ultimately should be, and that's on Capitol Hill.
Right, Nancy Pelosi. He's blaming Nancy Pelosi. Now, only the president of the United States can mobilize the National Guard in D.C., okay? Only the president of the United States. And the Fox News viewers choose not to know that. Okay. But he's saying that the president of the United States, as early as the summer, he understood that this was going to be and he had 10,000 National Guardsmen at the ready. He went to the Department of Defense and ordered them to do that. Later on Sean Hannity's show, the chief of staff to the acting Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller, and the acting Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller, appeared on the Sean Hannity show saying it wasn't 10,000. We didn't have 10,000. No, we had 20,000 National Guardsmen.
We pivoted to setting up for January 6th, and Mr. Trump unequivocally authorized up to 20,000 National Guardsmen and women for us to utilize should the second part of the law, the requests, come in. But those requests never did, as you highlighted.
Let me be very clear. Both of you said this under oath, under the threat of a penalty of perjury? To the committee?
Oh, absolutely, Sean. And to be clear,
that's Chris Miller.
Cash buttered up best. The meeting was one of the serious kind of heavy meetings I've been in, and it was about a foreign threat that was directed towards the United States, which obviously we can't talk to for fear of ended up in jail. And so I kind of want to be clear. The president, as we're leaving, it says, hey, one more thing, and we all sat back down and we discussed what was going on in January 6th. I don't want to, because I think that's important to bring up that the opposition doesn't get this idea that this was the purpose of the meeting. The president was doing exactly what I expect the commander-in-chief to do, any commander-in-chief to do. He was looking at the broad threats against the United States, and he brought this up as on his own.
Okay, so you have the president lying the day after, saying that he had mobilized the National Guard in D.C. Kayleigh McEnerney that afternoon, tweeted out that the president had called and mobilized the National Guard, that they were on their way. That was not true. Then you have Mark Meadows telling Maria Bartiromo that there were 10,000 at the ready, and then Kash Patel and Chris Miller on Sean Hannity, and Sean's like, you said that under oath? You swore to that? You swore that the president had 20,000 troops at the ready? Yes, we did. Yes, that's how we testified. Well, yesterday, the committee let us listen to the audio clip when the questioner asked Chris Miller, was there any accuracy to that crap that you said on Sean Hannity's show? Was Mark Meadows telling the truth? Was he accurate and correct when he said that there were 10,000 National Guardsmen at the ready? And under oath, Chris Miller apparently did not testify the way that he told Sean Hannity and the Fox News viewers that he did. In fact, this is crappy audio, but in fact, in this clip, the questioner asks Chris Miller, the acting Secretary of Defense, whether there's, quote, any accuracy to Mark Meadows' statement. Miller's reply will be, not from my perspective. I was never given any direction or order or knew of any plans of that nature. So I was surprised by seeing him say that publicly. We obviously had plans for activating more folks, but that was not anything more than contingency planning. There was no official message traffic or anything of that nature. Then you'll hear the questioner follow up and say, just so we're clear, you did not have 10,000 troops, quote, to be on the ready prior to January 6th. And Miller is going to say a non-military person probably could have some sort of weird interpretation, but no. To answer your question, that was not part of my plan or the Department of Defense's plan. The questioner will then say, to be crystal clear, there was no direct order from President Trump to put 10,000 troops to be on the ready for January 6th, correct? And Miller will say, that's correct. There was no there was no order from the president.
I just want to be clear here that since then, in February of 2021, Mark Meadows said on Fox News that, quote, even in January, that was a given. As many as 10,000 National Guard troops were told to be on the ready by the Secretary of Defense. Is there any accuracy to that statement?
I'm not from my perspective. I was never given any direction or order or knew of any plans of that nature. So I was surprised by seeing that publicly. But I don't know the context or where it was. No, there was no. We obviously had plans for activating more folks, but that was not anything more than contingency planning. There was no official message traffic or anything of that nature regarding.
So just so we're clear, you did not have 10,000 troops, quote, to be on the ready prior to January 6th.
A non-military person probably could have some sort of weird interpretation, but no, to answer the question, that was not part of my plan or the Department of Defense's plan.
And just that the rest of his statement was, quote, that was a direct order from President Trump, and yet here is what we see, all kinds of blame going around, but not a whole lot of accountability. And to be crystal clear, there was no direct order from President Trump to put 10,000 troops to be on the ready for January 6th, correct?
No. That's correct. There was no order from the president.